It was at this point, on top of all the footage of Palestinians getting blown up, all the Osama bin Laden letter going viral, and all the pro-Palestine content going on there, it was at this point that the Israeli lobby said, we need to do something about TikTok. And this guy, Jonathan Greenblatt right here, was one of the people at the forefront identifying this issue and going against this issue. And Jonathan Greenblatt is smart. He's constantly monitoring anti-Semitism. He's looking around, and he quickly realized that if they don't get a hold on TikTok, they are going to lose America. So last year, I showed you guys this video, and TikTok was banned right after Trump came into office, if you guys remember. And he was able to get it back up. But TikTok went down for 24 hours. And here's how this happened.
TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, and it's like Al Jazeera on.
And if you guys are wondering, this is Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, okay? There's supposed to be a league that, you know, fights against bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism, but being honest with y'all, they only care about anti-Semitism. Okay? The anti-defamation leagues, their real job is to go after American citizens that criticize Israel, Zionism, etc. Okay? Because let me be honest with y'all, most people don't hate people, right? What they hate is control, censorship, right? Not being able to criticize Zionism and or control of America. That's what people have an issue with. People don't have issues with people on a personal basis, like person to person. No. Right? You guys know I have people on my team. This isn't a thing. This is a Kabbalah gang thing. Okay? It's a gang and you're not a part of it.
Steroids.
In November of 2023, a recording was leaked of Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, referring to TikTok as a problem that needed to be taken care of.
Generational problem, because they know that the young people are buying into TikTok. And this was the beginning, guys. So I talked about this yesterday on Anton Daniels, but let me give you guys a quick little thing. So in order for you guys to understand how Israel stole TikTok from America, you must understand the history going back in time. So back in August of 2020, under Trump administration 1, Trump had been flirting with the idea of getting TikTok banned because it had Chinese spyware, was what they were making the allegation, okay? They were basically saying that TikTok was collecting a bunch of information from American citizens. As you guys know, TikTok, if you read their user guidelines, it's absolutely nuts. Like, they collect all your internet information, they collect all the stuff off your phone, etc. And the reason why they do this is so that they can go ahead and give you a more friendly user experience where everything that comes up on your algorithm or on your timeline is stuff that you're actually interested in. And for them to be able to give you such a personal newsfeed, they need to intercept and take a lot of information from your phone. And this was looked at as a huge security risk by the American government. There had been some talks about canceling it, banning it, getting it bought by an American citizen, changing it, blah, 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 but nothing ever happened. After October 7th happens, fast forward 3 years later, TikTok became overwhelmingly pro-Palestine. And in the pursuit of it becoming overwhelmingly pro-Palestine, a letter, a bombshell letter went viral called A Letter to America, written by Osama bin Laden, okay? And in the letter, Osama bin Laden wrote in excruciating detail all of his grievances with American foreign policy, to include one of the chief concerns, our support of Israel. And this was the first time that a lot of Americans have seen this letter. And the reason why is because when this letter was published back in the early 2000s, it wasn't shown on mainstream media because mainstream media alleged if this letter had been shown, there might have been a code word in it for more attacks, sleeper cells, etc. So that's how the mainstream media got around showing this letter. So for a lot of people, to include myself, it was the first time we had seen this letter. But here's the difference. The young people that saw this letter, they did not go through the indoctrination camp that we went through 20 years ago. The young people have a fresh set of eyes and they didn't deal with the 9/11 propaganda that we did.
Bomboka!
So when they read this letter, everything connected. Oh, this is why the Middle East hates us, because we bomb and kill people all over the Middle East, because Osama bin Laden's letter was very well written and he listed all of his grievances out. The sanctions killing Iraqi children, the occupation of the Golan Heights, the occupation of Palestinians, getting into wars with Lebanon, right? All of our poor foreign policy all across the Middle East and in the Muslim world was all documented there, right? Now, obviously, this is to justify the killing of innocent people. That's never acceptable. But for the first time, you were able to see why we were attacked. And our generation clearly didn't see this, but these young people did. So it goes viral on TikTok, right? Gets censored immediately. It was at this point, right, on top of all the footage of Palestinians getting blown up, all the Osama bin Laden letter going viral, and all the pro-Palestine content going on there, it was at this point that the Israeli lobby said, we need to do something about TikTok. We need to do something about TikTok. And this guy, Jonathan Greenblatt right here, was one of the people at the forefront identifying this issue and going against this issue. And Jonathan Greenblatt is smart. He's constantly monitoring anti-Semitism. He's looking around, and he quickly realized that if they don't get a hold on TikTok, they are going to lose America, because TikTok is the most popular app. It is what the young people use overwhelmingly. Young people have brain rot. They don't have the attention spans. They prefer to be on TikTok and just scroll, scroll, scroll. So if they're going to get indoctrinated with pro-Palestine content or content that's critical of Israel, this is going to create serious problems from them 10 to 20 years from now, when these young people become a voting age, when these young people become politicians, when the young people enter into these elite institutions. Okay? Give me ones if that all makes sense. Now you guys understand the lore. This is all very important context, so you guys understand the emergency frame and mindset that people like Jonathan Greenblatt and other members of the lobby were operating from.
The issue in the United States' support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tag Lee, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast.
Now, one interesting side note here is that I came across an ADL report expressing frustration that they couldn't access TikTok's analytics the way they can with every other big tech company. Like, should they be able to do that? Anyway, now we're about a month into this war, and all these studies started coming out, making claims about the proliferation of anti-Semitism on TikTok. The most notable one from a statistician and tech executive named Anthony Goldblum, who tweeted out on November 30th that a study he commissioned concluded 30 minutes a day on TikTok makes someone 17% more anti-Semitic. Politicians like Nikki Haley...
Bro, what the... Like, how did that even, like... How did he come to that conclusion? What?
...would then go on to regurgitate this claim on national television.
We do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes...
And for those of you that are wondering, Nikki Haley gets a lot of money from the lobby. If you look at AIPAC tracker, I think she's received literally like over $1 million. Let's see here. Yeah, 1 million, bruh. $1,191,000, right? Insane. The amount of money that they get.
That someone watches TikTok every day.
Chat, always follow the money.
They become 17% more anti-Semitic.
Except that survey didn't say that at all, because A, it conflated anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiments, which I believe to be different.
They are different, but they conflate the two because it makes a stronger political play for them.
And B, Goldblum himself admitted that he made some logical leaps when he was drawing his conclusion. But now things are really moving at a rapid pace. The next day, on December 1st, 2023, the New York Post reported that a group of 40 mostly tech leaders and business executives confronted TikTok CEO Shou Chu over their concerns about anti-Semitism and the allegedly disproportionate popularity of pro-Palestine videos on the app. One of those executives, Anthony Goldblum, the same Anthony Goldblum who we were just talking about. And from everything I understand, the meeting didn't go well in the sense that TikTok didn't commit to a kind of wholesale removal of pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel content. So from then on, the fight against TikTok pivoted from a kind of PR battle that we were just looking at to now laying the groundwork to push legislation through that would ultimately ban the app. In March of 2024, a bill was introduced in Congress, H.R. 7521, called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher.
Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30. This is a common sense measure to protect our national security. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bipartisan legislation.
The argument is one we've heard before. TikTok, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, could pose a threat to US national security by harvesting user data, and its algorithm could also be weaponized to, quote, brainwash Americans. Now, these concerns, I do think, are valid in a sense, but I think it's worth noting.
Yeah, but they didn't give a about that before, because when this was brought up in 2020, they never did anything about it. They did not do shit about it. It wasn't until the lobby came and started complaining that they did something about it. And then not only did they do something about it, they came and they bought it. Niggas just came and bought TikTok. They said, we're going to deal with this ourselves.
That companies like Facebook and Google engage in similar data collection practices, and then they would go on to sell this data to China. So China is getting the data anyway. But here's where things get really interesting. You start digging into Gallagher's largest campaign donors, and you uncover a story that goes far.
And guys, always look at a candidate's donors, okay? The donors dictate the policy. I'm going to say that again, guys. The donors dictate the policy, okay? Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million, okay? She went to the White House several times. She gave him that $100 million, number one, to ensure that he would win. Number two, get out of jail free card, because you guys know he got indicted 4 different times. And in return, he would be extremely pro-Israel and give Israel what they want. Give them the resource they need to finish the war in Gaza. Give them the resource to help them fight Hezbollah. Give them the resources to destabilize Syria. Give them the resources to go after the Houthis and attack the Houthis ourselves. And then finally, we're on the final part of this, which is to effectuate regime change in Iran.
Beyond data privacy.
And remember, guys, this video is from a year ago. We're going through the lore. Okay, this was a year ago when they were talking about this.
Or Chinese influence. Near the top of his donor list is AIPAC, the Israeli lobby. Here's a crazy statistic for you. Of the 500 plus members of Congress, only 33 members did not receive a donation from...
And this is where we can give credit to people like Thomas Massey, you know, AOC, Ilhan Omar. They don't take money from the lobby, which is why they hate them. Cori Bush.
The Israeli lobby in the last campaign cycle. So essentially, when Israel wants something from America, they usually get it. Now, another contributor I want to draw your attention to, Palantir Technologies, which is...
Yup, we know who runs Palantir.
Is a defense contractor co-founded by billionaire Peter Thiel. Palantir just happens to work very closely with the Israeli military.
And Alex Karp is FYI. And insufferable, by the way. Super pro-Israel. Hardcore Zionist. Annoying as... If you guys ever listen to him talk, it's literally... He is the king of word salad. I almost kind of want to subject you guys to a little bit of his bullshit real fast. Are they still going live here?
When I feel good about how I look, I feel...
Holy shit, this look crazy, bro. Anyway, look at how annoying this guy Alex Karp is when he speaks, guys. This dude is the worst.
Harvard, and certainly all of our adversaries know to be true, is viewed as something that's kind of worthy of great discussion.
All right, let me see. Let's see here.
Superiority of its ideas or values was not in it, and that are the Technological Republic, and you quote Samuel Huntington in it, and that argues the following, argues that the rise of the West was not made possible, quote, by the superiority of its ideas or values or religion, but rather by its superiority in applying organized violence. What did you mean by that, and is that what Palantir ultimately does?
Well, I think one of the most interesting about the quotes, that quote is it's indisputably and obviously true.
And you genuinely believe that the U.S., this idea of ideas, values, religion has nothing to do with it? You think it really is about organizing violence?
No. Sorry, I didn't say that our ideas aren't important. Obviously, I come from an academic family, and I was planning to be an academic before I realized it was worthless and I'd be better at building things. But
we should talk about that too.
But like, okay, one of the biggest problems we have in our elite institutions, especially our Ivy Leagues, is this indisputable truth that no one would listen to the superiority of our ideas if our ability to organize in violence was inferior. That every single person in the world believes, outside of the faculty of Harvard, and certainly all of our adversaries know to be true, is viewed as something that's kind of worthy of great discussion and dispute. And the primary reason they dispute it, honestly, is because at their core, they want to undermine the superiority of Western values, which are meritocracy, rule of law, accepting that inputs and outputs are not the same, that are the basis of building the superiority on the military plane.
You think that the university culture is trying to undermine that?
Well, I think it's moved from the 50s, where it was trying to explain why our Constitution is the best way to organize our lives, not others, why meritocracy is necessary, even if it means...
Translation, he doesn't like the universities because a lot of them are extremely critical of Israel, as many of these Zionists dislike.
Letting in immigrants to your institution.
Like, I don't like the universities because of their woke culture. They don't like the universities because of their criticism of Israel and their dislike for, obviously, what Israel stands for. It claims to be a democracy, but it's really an apartheid ethno-state, okay, that is occupying millions of people illegally.
Why inputs and outputs aren't the same, why the First, Second, Third, Fourth Amendment are unique, and why...
Yeah, so as you guys can see here, this dude, incredibly annoying, speaks in a pompous manner, can't say anything directly, used a bunch of word salad and further language to convey himself in an effort to look more educated than he really is, or to make himself sound smarter than he really is. And that's the problem with a lot of these technocrats. They try to sound smart, but they really are. Peter Thiel does this, Elon Musk does this, Alex Karp does this. Anytime I listen to these guys speak publicly, they suck. I speak better than these niggas, if we're going to be all the way at 1,000. Right? And these guys have went to some elite institutions. They hold prestigious degrees, right? And they still can barely convey themselves properly, or in a way that's understandable to the average guy. Actually, this is one of his better performances. If you watch some of his other interviews, it's 10 times worse than this, dude. 10 times worse. I'll play a little bit more of this chalkboard speaking.
It was worth standing up for these values has literally been transformed, especially in the humanities departments too. Of course, none of that could work because no one like us is good at doing that, basically. I mean, that's like, and therefore the whole thing couldn't work. And downstream of that is enormous dysfunction, and you see this in all sorts of issues. Our primary and most important adversary, I say adversary consciously and not enemy, is China.
What?
And we will decide, AI and the ability to implement it on the battlefield primarily will decide the values, i.e. the norms, the laws, and the spirit of the laws that are imposed upon us across the globe. And if you think for a minute they believe anything that we're being taught in our idiotic faculty, you are even more idiotic than the professors teaching it. And I'll tell you, if you actually believe in these values, again, I'm not a neocon, I never was.
Yeah, you are, bro. What the are you talking about?
Why I'm skeptical of immigration, because I don't think all this cultural assimilation hasn't worked in the last 50 years, and that's an obvious truth you're also not allowed to say. I'm skeptical of imposing values on other people. I never believed we should or try to make the Arab Middle East, Wilsonian people, like a Wilsonian ideal imposed upon them. If you believe for a second that anyone else outside this country believes that we are going to defend our values without superiority and moral violence, you're just living in a world that doesn't exist. It does not exist, and no matter how much you try to impose it on the rest of us, it still won't exist.
Okay.
He could have said that in 30 seconds, but he spent several minutes trying to explain it, right, in a very roundabout way. If I had to come up with a word for Alex Karp, he's pedantic. That is the word I would use for this guy. Just unnecessarily wordy and complex for no reason. This guy's the definition of pedantic. There you go. All right, let's get back to it.
Providing advanced surveillance and targeting software used extensively.
And yes, if you're wondering, he is
in their war on Gaza. And one of their consultants, a man named Jacob Hellberg, was responsible for writing the bill. Yeah, it's incredible. A defense contractor who profits off Israel's war were also the ones behind drafting a bill that would, in effect, stifle criticism of said war, which is a clear conflict of interest, no? At around the same time, the Federations of North America penned a letter to Congress urging lawmakers to ban TikTok due to anti-Semitism. Not one mention in their letter about China or data privacy.
TikTok runs all sorts of videos that portray the Israelis acting towards the Palestinians in barbaric ways. And when young people see these videos on TikTok, they obviously become remarkably sympathetic to the Palestinians, and they think...
Yeah. I mean, seeing kids get blown up made people say, what the is going on here? Right? Israel really misplayed October 7th, dude. Their response to October 7th was so disproportionate that it made the whole world turn against them.
Badly, to put it mildly.
This is John Mersheimer, by the way. Smart guy. I like John Mersheimer.
Of the Israelis. So
He was one of the first people to like really be noticing. Okay. I think he's a professor at the University of Chicago. He's somewhere out there in the Midwest. He wrote a book back in like 05, 06, 07, the Israel lobby, where he went into detail about this shit.
Lobby would like to shut down TikTok.
No, he's not. He's German. I think his ancestor sees he's German, Mersheimer.
On March 23rd, 2024, HR 7521 passed with largely bipartisan support. Looking back, I was fully expecting the bill to pass the House very, very quickly and easily because there are a lot of bills that pass the House and don't make it through the Senate. The Senate is meant to slow things down. But 1 month later, on April 24th, the act passed in the Senate, again, with overwhelming bipartisan support, and was signed into law by Joe Biden on the following day. Like I said, I had never seen a bill go through Congress with that kind of speed and velocity with very little opposition.
And that is whenever you put something that's pro-Israel, it's bipartisan, bless, send it up.
Or debate. It's wild.
Told you guys this before. Democrat Party, Republican Party, left wing, right wing, doesn't matter. Bird flies to Israel every single time, chat. Red or blue, doesn't matter. It's a bipartisan issue that never ever becomes an issue, if you know what I'm saying.
And maybe even wilder, by that summer, Mike Gallagher, the representative who had sponsored the bill, was now working for Palantir as their head of defense. He didn't even finish out his term. He just resigned from Congress and took a job there. I know, all of this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. In fact, the ADL did call this a conspiracy theory. The Atlantic also called this a conspiracy theory.
Aren't taking away TikTok. And isn't it funny? A year ago, they were saying they're not, but they definitely did.
They even name-checked me in their article. Quote, "The entire world knows exactly why the U.S. is trying to ban TikTok," James Lee declared on March 16th. Not bad for your boy here, huh? And honestly, this would remain a conspiracy theory. I don't know if I would have made this video if they hadn't come out and confirmed their true motivations.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? Some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok.
Yeah, because TikTok has a natural algorithm. That is why.
Broadcast.
And on top of that, it didn't have the same level of censorship and control as the other platforms. The other platforms are absolutely run by them boys. We know that. Meta, Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. Instagram, Adam Mosseri. YouTube for years, over 10 years. Susan Wojcicki. Google, Sergey Brin. So it's like, you know what I mean? Now, fast forward to today.
At this point, TikTok has basically become Israeli spyware.
This is from Mint Press News. TikTok is being run by a bunch of Unit 8200 agents, which is the Israeli version of the NSA. Root Medallion.
Yeah, Unit 8300, guys, is their signals intelligence squad. Okay, they're literally the equivalent to our NSA, collecting phone information, signals information, etc. That is what Unit 8300 is for the IDF. It is a component of their military. It's military and signals intelligence. Let me actually show you guys this. If you guys watch me, you guys know we've talked about the Israeli intelligence community for a while. But let's go ahead and, for those of you that are not familiar, or 8200, excuse me, I said 8300. Here we go. Unit 8200 is an Israeli intelligence corps unit of the IDF responsible for clandestine operation, collecting signal intelligence and code decryption and counterintelligence, cyber warfare, military intelligence, and surveillance. Okay. Our functional equivalent of the NSA.
Who works on the trust and safety team on News. TikTok is being run by a bunch of Unit 8200 agents, which is the Israeli version of the NSA.
That's crazy, bro. Running their trust and safety. And for those of you that are wondering, trust and safety, guys, is the unit that handles censorship for social media platforms. So like if you get banned, if you get demonetized, if you get suspended or any of this other bullshit, it's always the trust and safety parts of these social media platforms that do that. YouTube has a trust and safety, Instagram has a trust and safety, Meta has a trust and safety, obviously TikTok has a trust and safety. But the fact that TikTok's trust and safety is Unit 8200, it's like, bruh. You know, it's like, come on, dude. Seriously?
Root Medallion, who works on the trust and safety team on TikTok, based in New York. And would you look at that? Israeli military
Bro, and just so you guys know, from Meta, right? Her name is, I think, Jordana Cutler. This woman right here, this chick, right? She's the director of public policy for Israel at Meta Platforms, with a role expanding additionally to diaspora. She was formerly a senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So in other words, this woman has an enormous amount of power over at Meta, which oversees both Facebook and Instagram. And she used to serve under Benjamin Netanyahu. She was a high-level government official. And she's involved in the advising and policy creation over at Meta. She became director of public policy for Israel and the diaspora as a role she created at the company that has no parallel to any other high-tech company. Bruh. So they basically made up a position for her to just censor niggas on Meta. Insane. This is why when I tell you guys, censorship is, this is what I mean, okay? All the main architects of censorship, whether it's Media Matters, ADL, these trusted safety boards on these different social media platforms, it's almost always staffed by bro, every time. Insane how much power they have. They literally have the power to kick you off of social media platforms and remove your voice in your platform. This is why I have to do the OSS. This is why I'm demonetized on YouTube. This is why I got banned on Meta so many different times. This is why my Facebook is gone to this day. They control it all, and they just bought TikTok.
Intelligence Unit 8200. Here's another one. Omer Carmeli, global marketing at TikTok, former field operations specialist, IDF Elite Intelligence Unit. Einav Mir.
And look, I get it, bro. Like, a lot of you guys are talking about Cloudfold, and a lot of you guys are talking about Andrew Tate Fold, a lot of you guys talking about fresh folding, blah, blah, blah. You guys got to understand, bro, that not everyone is prepared to deal with this bullshit, okay? Dealing with these guys is a pain in the bro. I think you guys need to understand this, okay? I get it. People have families to feed. People have people that they have to take care of. People have, you know, businesses to run. So, like, I never really get mad. If you guys notice, like, I don't really, like, attack people for being scared to talk about this topic, because I understand that this is a very personal decision, and quite frankly, it's not lucrative. It's extremely taxing financially. It's extremely taxing personally. It's extremely difficult to do, right? You have to have other things in place, right, to talk about this topic. And quite frankly, I don't think it's fair to attack people and say, oh, you're a coward, you folded, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't think it's fair. Like, people are attacking Clav or whatever for meeting with Dave Grumman, or you guys attack Andrew, you guys have attacked Sneeko for before, or Fresh. Like, yo, it is what it is, bro. Not everybody is equipped to or wants to deal with this fight, okay? There's some crazy niggas out there like me who don't give a, but a lot of people don't want to deal with this bullshit, bro. It hurts the money, hurts the business, puts unnecessary attention on yourself. It's really not beneficial to you from a business or financial perspective. Has people scared to do anything with you, right? I guarantee you a big part of the reason why people don't want to interview me for their podcast, guys, or are scared to do it like Rogan and some of these big names, is because of this topic, right? Y'all saw when he brought Ian Carroll on how, like, they danced around the topic and they only covered it for a few minutes, right? It's a path of diminishing returns, guys. So let's not attack people for not wanting to talk about this. Okay, you just got to protect me, nigga. I'm the crazy one that's still out here doing this shit, but I'm not going to attack people for being critical of it. It is what it is. Okay, so just understand, bro, that not everybody's prepared to lose their livelihood, okay, over this topic. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? There's some crazy niggas like me that don't give a, but you cannot hold other people to my standard, guys. You just can't do that. It's not fair. It really isn't. You know, because I guarantee you, some of you guys have families, some of you guys have kids, some of you guys have, you know, people that depend on you. You guys wouldn't go out there and start naming the and talking about Israel and all this other shit and lose y'all job. Like, yeah, none of y'all would take that sacrifice. So don't attack these people, bro. Not everybody's me. Not everybody's me. Don't hold them to the same standard as me. All right, guys? So that's all I'm saying.